Hello, it's Monday. We're back here on Peter Piper Picked a Pepper Monday.
The 5 Ps.
Rob Morales, our CEO Network, here with the fabulous, the wonderfully I'm trying to think of a P word that goes with the demeanor and the prosperous, potentially perfect.
Imperfectly imperfect.
Ashley Miller. There we go. Yeah, she's back here every Monday with us here. Great American Titles, very own Ashley Miller.
Hello, everyone. So we're talking about the 5 Ps.
Yeah, I was a little bit tongue twisted today with the P's. So if you got
Piper picked a pepper.
If you got the right P, you can
Peter Piper
perform.
picked a pepper.
You can
and
pick
there's more to that.
Something like that. So Ashley was taking charge of the show today, which.
Not intentionally. Well,
Whatever.
it's never intentional.
So we came up with a bunch of like P words. Actually, she's following a thing. This is her show today.
Well,
I'm taking a side.
We initially, like we always say, we had an idea. We always create our ideas in the morning, like when we're fresh, and we're like, okay, every day's a new day.
What's relevant? It's got to be relevant.
It's got to be relevant. And then I not got called into, but I volunteered to participate in a charity golf tournament today for mental health awareness.
You look very golfy
suicide
today,
strategy.
I would say.
Yeah, that's why I'm wearing my hat. First time I've ever worn a hat on the show. So as I was thinking about this, and I met so many amazing people, and VA became very relevant. And this is not a show about VA by any means, but it got me thinking about we just don't really know. We, meaning us as a huge community,
okay.
You and I have a little bit more knowledge than the rest and the others. That's why we have a show.
I would say that, yes.
So our job is to deliver to you some information, being whether it's VA, which there's so much potential to purchase homes. And in this crazy market, if you want to pull that, I don't even know if you're prepared for this, but to pull the stat up, it was like our market.
Does it really make,
whether it does or doesn't, it's like 6.9 homes available, right? What was it? Like,
I'm going to pull up the number.
Yeah, please.
Oh, God.
I don't want to.
It's always out of order. Every time I prepare.
I know, and I even have, days on market, 16.6. I found it, 16.6. But little do we know that a lot of us have.
I'm pulling it up now. Just keep talking.
Some more pull, if you could say, if we're going with the P word. I was always taught the 5 Ps. Preparation, prevents poor performance. So when we go to buy or purchase, a property, it's important for us to prepare ourselves with knowing, I know, I'm totally going on the piece here, where we stand. So whether we are doing a conventional loan, cash, VA, FHA, DPA, there's so many different options we have.
I think what you're trying to get at is you really need to start getting in line with preparing to purchase a home.
Yes, we do.
And exploring your options. And it's really talking to us, right?
It is.
And talking to a lender.
Well, mostly the lender in the beginning.
Okay.
And a realtor that's willing to work with you, because Robert and I have worked on, there's another 5 Ps, and I didn't tell him this yet.
Oh, God.
There is passion.
Oh, God. Here we go.
Persistence.
Yes.
Planning. People.
I didn't write any of these down.
And positivity. So there was a property that I was really, really passionate about. And I was persistent. And I had a plan. I drew it out. I knew everything. I knew the right people. I had the positivity, but guess what? And I had the proper preparation. I had it all. I
had written all these down.
No, I know.
You got too many P's. Well,
yes.
Stick to one set of P's, miss.
P. So even with the proper preparation, the passion, the persistence, the planning, the people, the positivity, I still didn't win that house.
Are you talking about the one we talked about last week?
I'm still talking about Garfield. So butthurt about it. But
yes.
With that being said, we can go in. Hope is not a strategy by any means.
Yes.
We can pray, pagan. We can do all of that, but we cannot change other people's minds. We can't.
Correct.
And I tried.
I know. So the list of P's that I have is product, price, promotion, place, and people. So the product we're talking about is housing. Everybody, you have to prepare and really put your credit in line. We talked about it last week. So if you want to watch the show from last week, we talked about cash offers and then preparing yourself credit wise. I think establishing and getting a good credit history, credit report is probably the most key or essential thing you need to do regarding any purchase. But really, when it relates to housing, you have to have your credit in line.
Yeah, download Credit Karma. Not that I'm promoting them, and we don't promote them by
or
any
just,
means.
Yeah.
Credit Karma, it's not accurate by any means. There's 7 different credit bureaus. However, it kind of gives you a snapshot or a quick little. It's kind of like a Facebook of people's real lives. Yeah. It's not real, but it gives you an idea.
Well, and having a good credit score and establishing a credit history really puts you in a better position to make purchases and larger purchases. Yeah. And not only housing, but also small business. So when I applied for a small business loan, they looked at my personal credit history. I got a ding. I went through the SBA, Small Business Administration.
Oh, was it during 2020?
Yeah. And so they dinged my personal credit, and I guess they wanted to see where I was at. And then after that, I was granted the loan. It was like a couple days later, which is amazing. But again, establishing your credit is probably the most essential thing to do first. So preparing.
So we go there. So we know our product, we know what we're preparing for, and we have passion for it, right? So now we're combining those. Now we're talking about price, persistence, and
so I don't know. I'm following your lead on this.
So we have to prepare. We have to know where we're qualified for. So we have to have our price. We have to be persistent with our real estate agent to keep them on target, and actually do your recon yourself too.
Everybody writing these P's down?
Yeah,
I wrote a few. I missed a few.
And know what product you're qualified for.
Yeah, we're talking about those products too. There's a lot of products relating to housing. We highlighted one of them was VA. I don't remember if we mentioned that on the show or not.
We did.
We did talk about it before.
Yeah.
There's also conventional loan programs, FHA. USDA is an option, but it's kind of one of those far-fetched ones. Yeah. You need to be like really on the outskirts of nowhere, Yeah. If you go to the USDA website, you can see eligibility and those. So the two main loans that I think people would be enticed by. I was going to say not entitled. Enticed by are no down payment loans, and VA and USDA are two of them. So USDA means you're going to be in the middle of BFE, nowhere, but you'll get a house at no down payment.
You should do that right now because the middle of nowhere in about half a minute is going to be. No, seriously, because
I should check Morristown and see if it's USDA.
Oh, you should. Ash Fork is actually a
place
that we're looking at.
Hold on. If you keep talking,
okay. Of course, I have plenty of things to say. So
I'll look at Morristown.
Now we're planning, right? So we're planning. We're figuring out where our financial status is, what we can qualify for. What is your financial model? And we've talked about. We have talked about a lot of financial planning. That's a very vulnerable moment, like talking to a lot of people. Actually, you know what's more vulnerable than talking to other people about your finances? It's talking to yourself about your finances.
Talking to yourself?
Yeah. Have you ever written down your finances and looked down and been like, ooh, that's a vulnerable
Isn't that
moment.
like every day? That's like everybody watching.
It should be, but it's not to people. So we have to have the passion. We have to have the persistence. We have to have the preparation. We have to have the right people. And that's where it goes into one of the things like the people on our side. So who is on our side? Who are our cheerleaders? Who are we going to feel comfortable talking about our finances to?
I'm still trying to look at USDA.
I certainly hope it would be your real estate agent. Many of you may or may not have a financial planner, and if you don't, heck, that's okay. It's really getting granular with your finances. And if you are in a position where you're like, I just can't afford this, pick up the phone. That person on the other line doesn't care who you are. They don't care. They don't care what your credit score is, what your finances. They're just going to tell you straight up, hey, you can afford this? You can't? This is what the picture looks like. You don't actually have to sit like we are face to face. Hey, what's up?
Hi.
Hi.
Okay, so I got your Morristown here. I checked to see if it was in the USDA eligibility area. Whitman kind of looks like they're Morristown.
Whitman, yep. Mm-hmm.
Look at that. Morristown is in the USDA area. You could buy a house in Morristown, USDA.
I'm taking notes. See, I just learned something new today.
So I not only teach, I coach, and I tell people.
Yeah.
So you just go to the USDA eligibility map. You can just type that in Google and see if you qualify, or at least the area qualifies for USDA, which allows you to have a loan at no down payment. So people ask about that. I think that's a reoccurring thing. So again, talking about the P preparation. You know, one of the things I get asked about, especially in this environment where, you know, people don't have a whole lot of money to put down, they're like, hey, is there any programs out there that I don't have to put any money down? Is there any a first-time home buyer program, which is really FHA? But USDA is an option. USDA, and again, you just go down to the USDA eligibility map.
And I feel so guilty that I'm not even that familiar with USDA, like honestly, but
And
now that you just pulled up this map of my favorite town, which I've only been through like half a dozen times, I'm going to research more because why not? So put down your remote, turn off your TV. If you're living in an apartment and you're like, I can't afford a home, my rent's going up.
Don't you mean Facebook?
Or Facebook, or Snapchat, or, oh wait, what's the other one? TikTok, or I don't even know what all of them are because I just sincerely do not have time for them. No offense, I wish I did because I want to see what everyone's up to because I'm a very nosy person. But
man, that was a mouthful.
I know it was, but this is great news. So researching, and Robert and I do a lot of research, and I'm actually disappointed in myself that I didn't do enough research on USDA. Florence is becoming huge right now, you guys.
Well, Country Thunder is a big deal.
It's a big deal.
You know what the funny thing is? I don't see Florence in here.
Well, no, anymore. Because they moved the prison out of Florence.
Well, I meant for USDA eligibility for a no down payment loan.
What I'm saying is, I think they're changing because now people are moving more towards that direction with Apache Junction, and then we get further and further. And they took the prison out of Florence and they moved it to Eloy. So now that it's moved, Florence is becoming more prominent, and there's a lot of what's the word I'm looking for?
I have no idea.
Small shops going out there. There's antique shops. There's actually bridal boutiques. We have what's the wedding? I've been in the wedding industry for 20 years. By the way, venue? There's a wedding venue, but it's called. I
don't know. Kelsey just signed up to be a wedding out there. I don't remember the venue.
I'm a jerk right now. I've been doing weddings for 20 years on the side, by the way. There's some wonderful, beautiful places out in Florence. So we have to start thinking ahead. So we're preparation prevents poor performance. And then we go into, as we said before.
I'm going with that.
Well, we have the other P's. There's so many. The product. What product are you looking for? Are you looking for a mobile?
I wrote down the second set of P's you gave me.
But are you looking for a mobile home?
You're mixing up my P's today.
Are you looking for a mobile home? What is the price? Maybe you have enough money to buy land.
Yeah.
And then you can put a RV on it. I don't know.
I will say that this was a surprise. I'm looking back on the USD eligibility map, and Florence on there was historically, the last couple of years on the map. I don't see it now. Even in Coolidge too. And Coolidge and Florence tend to be very active markets.
But if you move to Eloy, I bet you it is.
Oh no, not Eloy either. I don't see.
Or
Arizona City. I don't know what the change was.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's because of the loan limits.
Expansion. Well, it's the same thing with expansion out west.
Well, the Nikola factories right here too.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot going on. So
if any lenders out there talking about USDA. This might be something to kind of explore. Yes.
Actually, we should find a good USDA lender because not everyone specializes in that, and that's another thing. Like finding the right people.
That's another P. That's the fifth P. That's the fifth P in the second set of P's that I wrote down.
To help you prepare for what you're looking for. There's I've had some friends who have literally sold their property and their kids are long gone. Yeah. They're single and they're like, you know what? I'm going to sell my property. They took their equity. They bought an RV, and they just rent some land. And they're parking on it. They're investing in some property, actually a little bit, a little bit past Florence. So what is that? The Apache Lake, or what's out that way?
Oh, what do you mean? Like down to Tucson?
No, going past Florence. If you keep going, there's a whole lake city out there.
There's
like a lake city, lake town.
Is there?
That's where a lot of people wakeboard and all that stuff. But watching, really analyzing what your goals are.
Yeah.
Where are we? What are we doing? Is this house that I currently live in, should I sell it? Are you an elderly couple? that your kids are gone and you're emotionally attached to this. But what is that going to do? You're just going to stay in this home that's falling apart, needs a new roof, or
I think that's definitely the question that we have, that everybody has in mind. Is it the right time to sell if you have a home? You know, the next question after that is where am I going to go if I do sell the house? Is there any potential for purchasing? And really there isn't. There's a lot of competition. I'll pull the numbers up a little bit too. We our market, that's the interest rates. We're still at about 3,600 listings. In the Phoenix area, so we're still running about 10%. I mean, it's a little bit better than last week. I mean, last week we were like
only by 20. I think last week was 3,668, if I recall, or 3
something like it. Very minimal, but the number is consistent, so it's not dropping. So that's one good way to think about it. But it's definitely not increasing, and this is our market right now.
When we talked about if there's an area that you truly, passionately, wholeheartedly want to live in.
Yeah.
Knock on some doors.
Oh, yeah, we did talk about door knocking.
Yeah, we did. I mean, if there's that is you going out, you're being persistent, you're being passionate, you're planning. If your kids want to go to a certain school or in a district, knock on those doors.
Yeah.
You never know who's going to answer.
I would lean more towards people.
That's
out of all the P's, I know we've thrown a lot your way, but of all the P's, it's really knowing people, having a strong network of just people you know and people you talk to on a regular basis, reaching out to agents, reaching out to title people, reaching out to whoever's in your immediate circle, continue to make more of those friends. Because if the intent is to find a house, know more people in that industry. You know, it only benefits you because it gives you more opportunities. So the more people you know, the more opportunities you have.
Absolutely.
And those are O's, not...
They are O's, but OPP, yeah, you know me. If you're down with OPP.
We're really stretching.
So I love the fact that you brought title into this, because I don't typically talk about title.
I know you
don't. I never do. One of the great things that if you find a property, and let's say hypothetically, throwing this far left or far right or in between, you knock on a door, you find a property, and they're like, hey, you know what? We've had so many people knock on our door, blow up our phone, scam likely, like they're just over it, but you look like a nice couple or you guys make friends. You can actually call, myself, of course, I'm going to tell myself, but you can call your local title company and ask them to pull a report. It's called a preliminary, we call it a prelim, but it's a preliminary report that will show you if there's any clouds on title. What cloud on title means if they owe any mechanics liens, if they're negative, if they're anything that's nasty and dirty, we dig that shit up. We get dirty. We do. Well, we will look it up for you. So, I am with Great American Title, and we do really wonderful things. We are the reasons why homes close. However, we also do a lot of recon. So if you are searching for a property and you're intrigued with something, feel free to call a local title company.
Would that include investors, people who are looking to buy?
Oh yeah, anybody. Yeah. I mean, we are busy. Don't get me wrong. We're. Yeah. I hate the word busy. Gosh, I hate the word hate. Ugh. So you can pick up the phone and call a title company and say, I'm looking at this property, whether it's a physical house or a parcel, meaning land, and ask them to pull a preliminary. Most title companies will do it complimentary because it's a pretty quick and easy report. You won't be put in front. You'll probably put behind, so you wait longer. However, we will pull it if you know somebody like me and you ask me. We will get it done probably within 24 to 48 hours because sometimes there's a little bit more recon. We have to wait for the county assessor's office, and that's just in the state of Arizona for me locally. But you can find information on properties. There are so many different websites to find information on properties. If you're truly intrigued on a property or parcel, piece of land, there's so many ways to properly prepare yourself.
With a preliminary report?
With a preliminary
She's really stretching those P's.
It's kind of fun.
But I mean, I guess you would really have to be, persistent on the edge of like bugging somebody in order to get that particular house. Because I mean, if for instance you fell in love with a house, you went to go visit, and you're a buyer, that person just bought it, I mean, it's probably going to be several years, if not a long time. I mean, unless you're like trolling somebody on Zillow and see all the house pictures from like 10 years ago, and you're like, hey, I really like this house.
Well, I would say
I really like this neighborhood.
If you're going to troll, like you're going to a neighborhood, if
you're going to troll,
if they have high weeds, old vehicles in their driveway, you can kind of tell when a property it's a little dilapidated, and like either it's vacant or there's elders in there. That may be an indicator that those people are ready to sell. Or, I mean, there's a property that I'm really obsessed with that I've knocked on the door, nobody's answered. Just don't go on the property. I had a
you
friend.
Cannot, I had a friend once on the property. That we got word that they were going to short sale. This was a couple of years ago. And he was an investor friend of mine. So the first thing he did is like, oh, okay, cool. He went on property, went to the backyard. There was people still living in there. Do not do that.
So I've done that before. Do not do that.
Oh, you've done it too?
I have a lot.
Oh, God. Do not follow Ashley's lead.
No, don't. It's completely against the law. But you can knock on their door. That's not against the law. You can leave them a note. You can leave them a card. Do not put it in the mailbox, because that's also against the law, by the way. You cannot put anything in somebody's mailbox without a postage stamp. I don't know if you know that. Got in trouble for that one time, too.
Well, you're the pillar of you're the pillar.
Police power.
What not to do when you're hounding people.
Well, I started real estate like almost 16 years ago. I've lived and learned. I've lost properties. I've lost money. I've been slapped on the hand. The postal office really slapped me on the hand for that, putting something in somebody's mailbox without a stamp. But we all do it. So if there is a property, please don't go in their backyard, knock on their door, leave them a nice gift, leave them a note at their door. If it says no soliciting, honestly, don't. Unless it's a really, really nice gift.
Yeah, if anybody has any interesting stories on how they acquired their house.
I would love to hear stories. Yeah, that would be amazing.
If you could just drop a line or something.
I stalked the house that I'm in right now. I stalked it. I drove by it.
And I believe her, because
I
have a feeling she does that.
Yeah. Not that I'm a sucker, but it is, I knew I was passionate about where I wanted to live. I knew the area. I was persistent. I had planned on it. I had looked at the market. I had talked to the right people. I had that great energy. The energy is huge too. Like if you get that, so intuition is our superpower, right? If you get that like feeling and that intuition about a property, and keep in mind, if you lose it, like Garfield.
She still brings it up.
No, I know. And I still feel like we're going to get it.
Yeah, I know.
And if you lose it, you know what you have to do? Chalk it up. That doesn't start with a P. Pull up your panties and move on. You do. Like you have to. So don't get sad. Just continue on and find something else. And it takes time. We're in a weird market.
We're in a weird place. Oh God, I have my notes. I'm going to get rid of these things because there's too many P's now.
And there's going to be a lot of great promotions out there. We do want to talk about promotions because that was another P. You're going to see rent to own. What's your opinion on that?
Rent to own, non-existent. The reason people or sellers do rent to own is because they have a hard time selling the property. That means it's either grossly overpriced, so like I've seen like $4 or $5 million properties that just sit there for a long time, and so people can't normally afford that, or at least have can pay the fees and everything else that you require in a jumbo loan in order to purchase like a $5 million house.
No.
So they will lease the property a 1-2 year term in order to buy down that equity, but it's a predetermined price. The only other time I've seen it is when it's a really bad property and it just won't sell for some reason, and so they'll lease it out to somebody until they qualify or until they are able to purchase a loan or get a purchase loan.
And I've noticed that as well, and I don't know if some people on here use Craigslist or there's a few other entities that you can use. So when I see a lease to own, the biggest thing and I think, I'm not a financial advisor, I'm not a real estate agent, is you can lease it, what type of contract you're getting into. Do you have an attorney or real estate agent to look through it? And then is the price set? So our market right now, okay, if the house is set at $520, if the market crashes, which it's not going to, but let's just say hypothetically, they say, okay, you can purchase it in 2 years. We're going to take the rent that you have. Let's call it 90% of the rent you put in. And then 2 years from now, we'll apply the other 10% towards your down payment, and then this is what price you'll be. But what happens if that 520, now that house is only worth 480, but you're set at 520?
See,
Are you overpaying? So you have to be very delicate.
Yeah, I mean, in this environment where I believe the market is shifting, you know, with the higher interest rates, the market is, I believe, shifting into a more stabilized market. I don't want to say a buyer's market.
No, it's stable.
I would say in the next 6 to 9 months it would stabilize, and so it might be advantageous for a lease to own situation right now for a seller to maintain the property prices today. But the off chance, the thing you take into consideration is like a year from now, could the prices increase from there? Because you're already locked in a price on a lease to own, a rent, or a seller carry back.
And can you, as a real estate agent, help them, guide them through that type of contract? Make sure, like solidify and make sure that a certain percentage of their rent, per se, is going towards a mortgage and a certain percentage going towards a down payment, and ensure in that 1 year or 2 years that price that was quote unquote set is going.
I will be honest, I've never done one that's been negotiated to term. It's one of those particular situations where a seller will want a large down payment, and they will want, like I said, a particular term, sometimes a year, sometimes 2 years. But they also have to believe and trust that the person that is buying or leasing the house will qualify at the end of that 2 years.
Right. That makes a big difference.
If the market goes up, obviously they're going to not want him to qualify. If the market goes down, believe me, they're going to hold him to that price. But then this buyer, this renter to owner, also takes it. Has to be very cautious about
conscientious
about like being able to qualify for the loan at that point.
Well, anybody could lose their job. Like I could trip and fall and break both my arms and legs, and then I'm going to wonder who's going to wipe my butt. But
that's why the rent to own terms are shorter. Typically a year. You don't want to hold out more than 2 years on a rent to own.
Right.
So if you're renting to own to somebody who has a 500 credit score, chances are they're not going to qualify a year from now.
But they potentially could. So
yes, I mean I want to take it off the table.
No,
but
that's that is such a delicate one, and we actually should get somebody on here too to talk about
who's done rent to owns.
Yeah, the lease to own or rent to own.
I don't know anybody that's.
I think I might have somebody that might do that. So if you are ever in a situation where it's lease to own and it sounds too good to be true, I'm not saying it is, and I'm not saying it isn't, but there's so many different hurdles.
Yeah, I would say if you're seeing advertisements today for rent to own, it's probably not true. I mean, like I said, it's probably a scheme to get your information, minimally, if not to sell you on a product. But it is an option, and I see the only circumstance I would see a rent to own work for is if it's a relative, like your grandma is like retiring and wants to sell the house to her grandkids who don't qualify because they're young, they're like 19 or 20, and they don't have a whole lot of credit history. That could be a situation.
Family member moving out of state, and like, okay, you can stay on our property, you can rent it, and after a couple of years, like there are. That's what I'm saying. I'm so on the fence with that one. It's like, which way do you go? Which way do you go? You have no idea. It's not persistent. Okay, that's all.
I don't know.
That was the end.
Please get me out of this. So I did want to cover some market stuff while we're here. So every week we look at the market index.
Oh, it's in the yellow.
Demand index is decreasing. So I mean, for buyers out there, that could be a signal for in a positive light that the demand index is decreasing. But we still have, again, a supply shortage. Green means small supply. Red means too many houses out there. We do have
yellow is a good market. That means the stock market's going to be okay.
Well, it's stabilizing.
Maybe
I don't know if
maybe milk will go down a little
quote
bit.
Unquote okay is a little ambiguous.
I don't know. I live in a house with a child who is 17 years old who's very right, like meaning right politically, and
oh really?
Oh yeah.
I don't want.
He's very.
We're not a political
political
show, but
no, we're not. So it's what I see and what I think when I watch real estate, when I watch the market and I pay attention.
Yeah.
But what he reads and sees, and he's in the junior Air Force, like. And now it's now called his program. There's only 5 programs in Arizona. I mentioned this before. He's now in the space program. They talk about politics all the time and the money and Biden, and it's just like mind blowing.
Is that Space Force?
Yeah, Space Force.
He's part of Space Force?
Yeah, he's part of Space Force now. They just actually converted. They just had like this big ceremony, and they converted to Space Force, and it's pretty cool.
Oh.
Yeah. And actually, there's a new show on, I don't know, maybe Netflix or something with, what's that really funny guy? He was on Office,
Steve Carell?
Yeah, Steve Carell. So Steve Carell actually has a show now, I believe on Netflix, called Space Force. And it came out I believe the day or the day after it was released that they inaugurated his program into the Space Force out here in Phoenix, Arizona.
Well, look for Space Force to create your housing out in space because we're running out of land here.
So real quick, I don't want to go over, but
I was trying to divert it back to housing.
Yeah, we are going to. So, boxables. So thinking outside the box, right?
You were going to talk about boxables.
I wasn't going to, but then we talked about Space Force. So now there's different alternatives, and we're thinking outside the box, and we're thinking about we're prepping and we're planning and our finances and all of this different stuff and the places we're going to go and the people we will see. Dr. Seuss. So they're actually thinking about putting some of these boxable, like, houses that just like, when you get a mattress and you open the box and just like,
in outer space?
On Mars. And Elon Musk is involved in it.
Oh, he's got it.
YouTube is your best friend. He's living in boxable right now.
So I don't know if I'll be moving to Mars anytime soon. I'll probably be dead by the time we actually have trips out there.
No, you won't. You're only a few years older than me by 2 points.
By the time I get retirement age, I'm not going to want to do shit.
Bro, we're retiring way sooner than retirement age.
Well, I meant like sitting around not doing anything, watching YouTube or something.
Are we ever going to not do anything?
No, but I'm just saying.
We're never, there's no retirement age for us.
That's true.
True.
So anyway, I'm going back. We got to finish. So we're over 2 minutes.
Yes.
So if you're hanging on, thank you for hanging on for these last few minutes. Housing supply is stabilizing. I would say we've been about half month supply for about the last couple months. Yeah. So it's not decreasing, but it's not increasing tremendously well either. Like I said in the last slide, the demand index is stabilizing. Whether or not that's people not qualifying or people just pulling out and worried about where the market's going. The idea is if the demand decreases, supply should increase for your potential home buyers out there.
Can I ask a weird question?
Is it related to Space Force?
No. It's about do we have, this is actually a really messy question. I was thinking as I looked at that number, do we have a trajectory of the elders that are potentially passing away right now? So you know how they have the baby boomer era, right? So baby boomers are at this point where they're like in their late 80s and they're all about to pass away, unless they're like.
Yeah, it's not only.
Is there any trajectory on that?
There is a stat. It's not migration. There's net migration reports that tell you like when people are moving and leaving and coming and going.
Well, it's a death.
But there is a death report too, like on average how many people die. And it relates back to housing.
It is a baby boomer era, right? They're at that point. Yeah. I believe.
There's a lot of them. Yeah.
I know. I'm not.
I just don't remember what the name of the report is. I know. But I do know what you're talking about.
But I was thinking about that because as I was talking before about watching properties who have overgrown weeds and all this different stuff, and I'm curious
thinking
about
that they're old people?
the baby boomers were the largest market of people having babies.
Is there a baby boomer to weeds in your yard report ratio? If anybody knows a report out there,
next report.
I don't even know anymore. So I'm just going to go over the interest rates because we keep increasing. So what last week or the week before we saw interest rates just below 5%, and now they're about 5.25%. So as we go along, housing is getting a little bit more expensive, and we're looking at just these point increases. I think we've gone up almost 2 points in the last 3 months.
And be cognizant point and a half at least. Of what Robert put in. So he put in 400,000, 5% down, Arizona, and the credit report. So person's average credit score is lower than that. Like mine's only 703. So if you go over there, the average person I believe is a 620.
Well, going back to like preparing, right? The original P. So if you don't have your credit line in or your credit report or your credit score in line, I mean, you're looking at a difference like at 640,
almost 6% now,
5.88 versus somebody who's a little bit more well qualified at a 6 or 760, goes down more than half a point.
Well, and I don't want to use like when you hear the word well qualified, I don't want anybody to think that that's a derogatory statement. Like for instance, well, according to them, but I had one credit card that I charged $100 on, and I didn't pay it off before my credit report posted, and it's like your credit score went down 12 points.
Yeah,
like what? And it was literally a balance of $100. because it reported like right before the credit score. So that qualify, and those numbers are so malleable. So I don't want anybody to discredit.
In my personal example, when I got my divorce, through the city of Chandler, I didn't like my ex-wife didn't pay her last water bill or whatever, and I hadn't lived there in 6 months, so I got on this whole FU train where I'm not going to pay that bill. I didn't live there for 6 months. It's not my responsibility, but it was under my name. Right. And so it was on my credit report. So that $65 I decided I was not going to pay out of principle was holding back my score about 90 points.
I love you so much because I went on the FU train for 6 years.
Oh.
For an old water bill.
The F train?
Oh, I did. I actually just paid. It was like $215. It's what you spend multiple things, like taking my kids to Sky Zone or whatever. I finally broke down after 6 years.
Here it comes.
I paid it.
Yeah.
And when I paid, I was like,
yeah, I know. So was I.
I was mad. I was mad. But that $200 really means nothing at the end of the day.
Well,
but what it does with credit.
So that 100 points, it was like a 720, and then it shot up to about an 810.
An 810?
So yeah. So just that one collection, it was a collection. It was on there for a couple of years. Just that one collection brought my score up almost 100 points. And that 100 points is the difference between paying 5.1% versus 5.8. And over 30 years, that's a few $1,000s.
We should have
we're really over, by the way.
I know, a credit person on here. Let's do that.
Okay. So next time. But if you have any comments or questions, oh boy. What did we learn today, Miss?
Proper preparation prevents poor performance, and you need to know your product, your price, your promotion, your place, and your people, and have passion, persistence,
a lot of P's.
Planning, people, and positivity.
I will stay positive, so I hope you guys stay positive on a Monday. We're back here next Monday talking about the Phoenix housing market and probably more P's. I don't potentially know. All right, we'll see you guys next week.
Peace out.
Laters.